To create successful design pieces, we need to understand the rules that make it work. The principles of design are a set of rules that designers use in order to create visually pleasing work in an organized and functional way. Hi, my name is Laura Kyung, and I am a graphic designer with over 15 years of experience. In this course, we will talk about the principles of design, and I will show you real-life examples and templates from Envato Elements so you can understand all about these principles. Envato Elements is a great resource for high-quality templates, photographs, fonts, and much more. Every design piece has a structure below the surface that make it work to look balanced and visually pleasing. So once you understand how these principles work, you can then break the rules. So let's get started with the first principle, balance. Balance creates stability in a design piece. So every element on a page carries a visual weight, and that can be through different scales, shapes, colors, and even textures. A lack of balance in a design piece can make a poster or on a page look like it's falling toward one side. So balance would be something that feels grounded. Let's take a look at some examples. On this cover design for a book, we can see that there is symmetrical balance. So if you were to draw a vertical line through the cover, we can see that there is an equal amount of elements on the left side and the right side. And the colors are the same. So this is a very basic definition of what balance is. The way this book cover achieves movement is by multiplying the title of the book and making it different scales, right? So we can see that there is depth to it. On this second example from Envato Elements, we have a flyer. And again, if we were to draw a vertical line through the center of the flyer, the pineapple is slightly off center. And to counteract that, we have the title of the flyer, Summer Party, on the left side with bigger typeface. So this helps counteract that weight and balance the poster beautifully. A lack of balance, it will make the poster feel like it's falling toward one side. So it is very important to check for that. The next principle of design is unity. Unity is the harmony produced by all of the elements in a design piece and how these elements create a relationship as organically as possible. Let's take a look at some examples. This first poster for the Whitney Design Museum is loud, but it is still organized. And that is the challenge with unity. Museum design pieces tend to be a little bit more creative. So we can see here that there is a relationship between the pictures being very creative and also the way the typography is set. We have big numbers and the months are rotated vertically, so that makes it already look different. The way the captions are next to each of the pictures and then the relationship all of these have and create with the big numbers is just very natural, and that is what you want with this design principle. On the next example, we have an Envato Element flyer for back to school, and the way that this flyer is incorporating unity is by having a very specific color palette, and also the elements on the illustrations that are being used. They're all related. The illustrations have the same style, so the basketball is not different from the airplane, let's say. And this just works beautifully and very natural. A lack of unity can make a design feel disorganized and cluttered. So it is very important that unity can point the viewer to the right information. The next principle of design is contrast. Contrast refers to the level of difference between design elements to create visual hierarchies. So this can help the viewer go to certain elements because they stand out more. And you can do so through the use of different colors, shapes, and textures. Let's take a look at some of the examples. On this first poster, contrast is used with two different colors, so the yellow and the purple. This really makes the whole poster stand out a lot. And then if we examine a little bit further, we can notice that there are two different typefaces, if not three, because of the language difference. There is a sans serif and a slab serif font. So these also create contrast. And then we can see contrast in shape, where it says Taiwanese waves. That is a circle or a circular shape, and so are the waves, right? And then we have the typefaces or the text boxes that are just blocks. So that creates also contrast in shapes. On our next example from Envato Elements, we have a magazine template, and there are multiple typographic elements using contrast here. It is important to create hierarchy, especially magazine design, because the readers need to know what elements are more important than others and which ones should be read first. So on this cover, the company profile text is bigger and also in all caps, and that hints that this is the title of the publication, and then the rest of the text is just supporting. So contrast can create a focal point, and without it, we can confuse the user, the viewer, or the reader of the design. Let's take a look at the next principle of design, and that is emphasis. Emphasis is a strategy used to get the viewer's attention to a very specific design element, and you can do so through the use of color, lines, and positive and negative relationships. Here, the key is that as long as you have contrast, you will have emphasis. Let's take a look at some examples. On this book cover, we can see that emphasis is created by breaking the repetition of the heads and changing the color of this head element. The head direction also enhances the title of the book, The Uncommitted. So again, here, as long as you have contrast, you will create emphasis. On our Envato Elements example, we have a design with a pineapple, and we can see that there are multiple lines going to the center and pointing to the pineapple. So these are called leading lines, and these give a hint to the reader to go to the most important element here, or the element that is key in the design. So in this case, that will be the pineapple, and it has a very cool treatment to it. Lack of emphasis in a design piece would make it look dull and boring, and we want to do the opposite of that so we can get the viewer's attention. Let's take a look at our next principle of design, repetition. Repetition is repeating the same element through a design to create consistency. So this can be the same typeface, the same graphic element, or even the same grid if we're talking about a magazine. On this first example, we can see a minimalist poster featuring a leaf-like shape at the top, and this shape is repeated 4 times. And to make it more interesting, it is set in different colors, and it has a very cool effect with this superimposed look. The rest of the poster looks very minimalist, very straightforward and simple to let the leaf shapes shine through. On our Envato Elements example, we can see a branding suit, and the repeating element here is the yellow wavy shape and the color. We can see that on the letterhead and the envelopes. They have in the sketchbook as well. They have the wavy shape. And in brand design, this helps create consistency and cohesiveness so our brand can look put together. The next design principle is pattern. Pattern is the repetition of multiple design elements that will help enhance the viewer's experience of the final design. So while repetition focuses on a single element, pattern is multiple elements that just expands through. On this first example, we have this intricate pattern, and we can see that the waves in the background have no clear direction, but they start from the bottom left toward the top right. And when using patterns, we have to be careful not to create a clumpy or disorganized design or something busy. So in this case, the text is kept white, and there aren't multiple text boxes scattered through the poster. It is just one text box with the date, the important information, and then the pattern in the background. If it was the opposite, the user wouldn't know where to look. So they wanted to keep this as simple as possible. On our Envato Elements example, we have a business card. So in brand design, it is important to create a pattern in order to extend the graphic line. In this case, we have an elephant icon, and it is a very simple pattern, yet it is very impactful and very strong. So this is also really good to create an atmosphere through brand design, through the pattern in brand design. So it is excellent. The colors are great and very punchy. The next principle of design is rhythm. Rhythm is the visual tempo of a combination of elements used repeatedly throughout design and with variations. So this helps create movement, but it is an organized type of movement. And here that's the key word. You won't really notice rhythm unless you really start to take apart a design piece. And it sits more in the background, but it really makes a difference. On our first example, we can focus on the background rectangle, and the colors on each block repeat without a very clear system. And depending on their vibrancy, they are bigger or smaller. So for instance, the yellow blocks seem bigger than, say, the red blocks, and there are only 2 green blocks and the blue blocks are shorter. There is rhythm to this design, but not a clear system on how things repeat. On our next example, we have this Envato Elements flyer, and we can see that rhythm is created with the triangle elements. So if we were to have just that one triangle in the center, it would just be heavy and very static. And because this is a concert, we want to make it exciting. And by adding those triangles in different sizes and colors, it just has more movement. We can see that the yellow triangles are sort of the same size, the same with a couple of the green ones. So there's no clear system, but it is there. The rhythm is there and the movement is there, which is actually our next design principle. Movement refers to the path our eyes take through a design composition. So if we have a dynamic composition, our eyes will move from different elements to different elements. And if we're smart enough, we will use that to lead our viewers to a very specific element or to the most important element in a composition. So on this very first example, we have a poster, and it is very strong, let's say. It has a very energetic image and that adds movement toward the bottom right of the poster. And here we have the motorcycle that occupies about 2/3 of the poster. The wheel leads the eyes to the kid on the opposite side. And to counteract these lines, we have at the top of the poster the text, which is very simple, very straightforward. On our Envato Elements example, we can see that movement is added through the branches. So organic shapes tend to add movement, and we can see that very clearly on this example because at the bottom of the poster where the information is, or some of the information, it is contained in a capsule or underlined, and that helps create stability. And that also grounds the poster, but towards the middle of the poster, there is movement with the branches, there is movement with the illustration, and that's just creates a more interesting piece. We can see also a repetition of the movement with this detail here, and that helps enhance the title of the flyer. So movement is important again for the viewers so they know to what elements they should go to. The next principle of design is proportion. Proportion is the sense of unity created when all of the design elements in a composition relate well to each other, and that can add balance and harmony. So for instance, on this specific poster, we have a good sense of proportion with the different typographical elements. So at the very center, we have the name of the subject, and then we have the supporting elements on the sides. And when we talk about proportion, we're talking about how the main information is big and clear, and then the supporting information, it is in a smaller type size point because that is secondary, that is smaller, almost like a body copy in a magazine. And that is our next example from Envato Elements. In this example, the main title is worked over the image on the left page. It says hero. So that is the title. And then we have the other two elements are the quote and the body copy. And these are different sizes as well. So the body copy, it is usually the heavy text, that's where all the information goes into, or an interview. And then we have the quotes that are used to enhance important parts of this body copy. The size of this quote would be in between the main title and the body copy. So that's what we call a good sense of proportion. If there was no proportion in a design, then everything would look exactly the same. It would look very static, and the viewer or the user wouldn't know which information is most important. So the next principle of design is harmony. Harmony is the sense of cohesiveness between the elements in a design composition. The elements in a composition shouldn't be all the same, but it should be somehow related, and this can be done through the same color palette, similar typefaces, or the same typefaces sometimes, and also similar styles. So on our first example, we have this book cover, and there are a few things going on here. We have the sans serif all caps text in the background. Yellow is a bright color, but a little bit close to white, so it is subdued, let's say. And then we have the multiple text details that are handwritten. And the handwriting is not the same on all of them. They are related. And these are different. They're all still made by hand. So they're cousins, not siblings, let's say. And the same can be said for the organic arrows, circles, and scribbles used. They add a very specific personality to the whole cover. But it still contrasts the background and brings it all together nicely. And that's what we want when we talk about harmony. On this Envato Elements example, we have a CD cover that features pastel colors that work very well together. And that is why it is important to spend some time choosing the right colors, the right hues and shades, so your color palette can work in harmony. We have multiple geometric shapes that contrast beautifully with the organic image hidden in between the lines. That is nice variety. But also the diagonal strokes that go downward enhance these geometric shapes. So they're not the same, but they are very similar to just enhance everything and add some movement and some repetition without it being the same. So we want them to be cousins. We don't exactly want them to be siblings. The next principle of design is variety. Variety creates contrast and tension in a design composition, and it can be intriguing for the viewers. So for instance, mixing organic shapes with geometric shapes, it is different, but as long as it enhances the theme or the concept of the design, it can work really, really well. On this poster, we can see that variety is added through the use of a couple of different typefaces. So we have this dichotomy of using a very strict and a very rigid grid that is then broken up by the use of the image and the handwriting. So we have a sans serif text block at the top left corner and then at the bottom right too. In all of this, or these only two elements that establish rigidity, this is broken up by adding a handwriting font right in the middle. And then we also have this very dynamic image on an angle. And also we have a background, this blue-green background that just sort of establishes commitment and is very heavy. And again, it is broken up by the use of the handwriting and this image on a perspective angle. So that is a really good use of variety. Key here is to have contrast. So let's take a look at this next example from Envato Elements, and here we have the mix of different colors and typefaces. Variety is added through how each compartment is used. So sometimes there is text, sometimes there is an illustration or also an image. So there is enough repetition to know that all of these compartments belong together, but also enough variety to know that they're not, they're not siblings, but they're cousins. The principles of design are as the foundation for creating a composition. They can help you create a structure that is strong and that is presented in the right way. These principles can also help you understand how other designs are built, or if you're missing a piece of the puzzle, and I call this the editing process when you're designing something. If you're missing an element, or maybe you need to add another element, so you're sure that your design can work with these rules. And the use of these principles will help you design with purpose by giving function to every single element in a composition. And you can communicate a clear message that it isn't only about the message, but how we carry it to deliver it cleanly and clearly. And when you look at a design piece from now on, you will be able to decode it and understand why each piece is there and what is its function. If you're looking for creative templates, be sure to check out Envato Elements. It is a great resource with photographs and fonts and just multiple graphic templates. There are so many different assets you can find there for your next project. If you're new to design, be sure to check out our courses and videos on our channel. My name is Laura Kyung, and from all of us at Envato Tuts Plus, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.